Okay, I'm going to make a start. So as you can see, my face has got sunburn, my nose is all red. I look like Rudolph. I'm taking this medication which makes my skin very sun sensitive, so even though I've had sunblock on, looks like it hasn't quite worked as it should have done. Nevertheless, never mind. Put vanity on the shelf. So reading the next chapter of Perfect Match, and we have got to chapter 8. Now, last chapter, which was chapter 7, we were talking about the fear of staying the same, and how we can only change when the fear of staying the same outweighs the fear of change. But we're going to change tack a little bit in this episode. We're going to be looking at creating with pictures and words, because part of being an energetic creative, which is what this book is about, we have to know how to create, and we have to know what to create in order to get the best effect. So this is creating with pictures and words. So in the opening chapter, I said this book was about creativity, and that this creativity refers to us learning to create within our lives. One of the reasons I love working with tarot is that it's picture-based. Every card contains an image that represents something that's an archetype in life. Now, this is an amazing way to communicate with our shadowy inner world, because the subconscious doesn't use words to communicate. Like tarot, it uses pictures. And we live in the movie of our lives. We constantly create an ongoing movie of what's directly in front of us every minute of every day. Our movie is in reality pure guesswork, but most of the time we broadly get it right, so we rarely question it. We build a picture of how life is going to look on the road ahead, in 10 minutes, a day, a month, or even a year ahead. And this is our creative process at work, and it works on autopilot. When we're unable to see the movie because life has shifted the goalposts and the future now looks uncertain, we start to panic, because what our minds hate most is a blank space. Now, when this happens, it feels really unsafe. Now, of course, something always fills the space. It's never empty. We exist. Things happen. They always have. They always will. But when we feel we can't see ahead, things look more worrying. Often, we'd rather live with an uncomfortable certainty than the chasm of emptiness we see when we haven't filled it with something that looks in some way familiar. Now, if we go back to the last chapter and we remember Molly, it was only when she decided the space was better than her existing movie that she changed the channel. Now, I'd like you to reimagine the idea of the space. What if the space was a momentary blank canvas? Now, I say momentary because it always is momentary. It's always filled almost immediately with our stuff. So what if you could create a good space, though? Not the scary, stretching into grey expanse of nothing space, but a white space. A clean, fresh space, which is actually intoxicating and liberating. Now, you're going to create a new painting on that white, clean space. You're going to fill the space and put that out there as your painting. How does that feel? Great, exciting, and vibrant? Or maybe it feels a bit more challenging. Maybe the picture suddenly looks dark and a bit messy. Now, we use words to communicate with each other, but our images are much more personal. What came up for you when we read those words was important. What image came up when you read the phrase, what did that picture look like in the moment to you? To create a new experience, it must reflect what's inside us. If we try and push down or ignore bits that we think no one can or should see, we are making a grave mistake. That's why it's so important to have a good old spring clean inside, because nothing is really hidden. Now, have you ever tried to describe a painting that you really loved? You have an image of it in your head that was so vivid, but in words it had no resonance. Trying to describe it to another person doesn't quite work. The other person just can't share your experience. If they saw the painting for themselves, they might. Or it might leave them a bit flat. The painting speaks to your inner world, or it doesn't. The picture you saw and loved, the music you heard and responded to, connected all the bits that are inside of you. It resonated with your internal world, and that connection is powerful and meaningful. In reality, that painting is just patterns on a surface made with coloured pigments. The music is just a collection of sounds, of words that are sometimes quite general. But we feel it as more than this, though, as a meaningful truth for us. Or perhaps we don't feel it at all. This depends on our internal reality. And what is inside us expresses itself consistently in every aspect of our lives. Our reaction to the painting came from our inner world, and you attract a partner in much the same way. The actual fabric of you, the collection of physical bits, is way less important than you might think. It's the bits that you can't see which are actually doing all the work. And that's why you can be strangely attracted to someone who is really not what you would consider to be your type. Or that someone who is obviously physically gorgeous leaves you really flat and disinterested. What you keep hidden has power, and actually gains power by your attempts to keep it hidden. This is because even if we think something is buried, it still has energy within us. And the energy remains an active part of your signature. Even if you try and suppress it, it will continue its role in magnetizing similar or resonant energies to you. Remember sayings like, what you resist persists, and like calls to like? These are fundamental truths in the world of energy. Once you bring something to the surface, acknowledge it, forgive yourself, anyone else involved, and then release it, its power over you vastly diminishes. Everything we hold on to continues to have power in our world, our lives, and our relationships. Energy doesn't care if something is positive or negative. It has no judgment or discernment. If it's active within you, it's in the mix. That is the law. So it's really important that you understand what it is that's inside you, and that you could see, if somebody could see all of this, what would they be looking at? Because they can, because people can unconsciously. Now, next week I'm going to be reading chapter 9, And that's all about the power of forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is a very interesting and quite diversive thing. And I used to, many years ago, have real issues with the idea of forgiveness. What forgiveness doesn't mean that you're saying something is okay. It isn't. It's almost like a cord cutting. When we maintain an energy between us and the thing, whatever that thing is, we keep its presence alive within us, and therefore it is unhealed, and therefore it is still active and present in your signature. When you forgive it and let it go, remove your active participation in its presence, then its effect on you diminishes. And that's how we approach forgiveness. We forgive it and let it go. We tell it it has no more power over us. It does not have a place in our lives. We hold no negative energy for it. We are not attached to it in any way. We're completely calm and ambivalent about it. We forgive it. We've moved on. It ceases to have any power. But we seem to think forgiveness is a way of saying, well, you know, I forgive you, therefore it was okay. No, that's not what forgiveness means. So we're going to be going into that side of things in a lot more detail next week. Let's take a couple of cards about, let's see if there's any guidance on this chapter that I've just been reading. Let's have a look. Okay. Okay, Four of Cups. The Four of Cups it's where we're resistant to what's on offer to us in some way. Now, when this is referring to our creative power, what that's telling us is that somebody who is not in the same resonance as us will not respond to us at all. We can only see, we can only feel what is in some way in resonance with our energy. And here we can see the Four of Cups. Now, the Four of Cups is a very flat and disinterested energy. It talks about feeling vaguely dissatisfied with things. And so when this card comes up, it will tell you that somebody's not interested in you particularly, or interested in what you have to offer, or maybe they're just not very aware of you, or they're just feeling very flat and not paying attention at all. They're not feeling anything. So if we want to attract what it is that we're looking for, we have to be able to resonate with that energy. Otherwise, this is what happens. We're going to hold out this thing and say, but this is what I want. But inside, we're just not on the right wavelength. And so it's really important that we get absolutely clear about what we're afraid of, what our fears are, what the patterns are about in our relationships, because that will all be giving us valuable information. This also plays into the trope that there's nobody out there, because often we're completely either unimpressed by what's showing up for us. This is all we can see. This is all that's on offer. Guys that never show up, girls that always lose interest and go away. Whatever this is, it's just not satisfactory. So what we must do is we must look within ourselves to see why we're attracting this. Whatever the picture is within us is on some level attracting whatever this is. So either we're not impressed, or that's someone who's not impressed with what it is we're offering. So it's really important that we take this stuff seriously. Okay, let's do one more card. Okay, Six of Cups, all emotional, of course. Now the Six of Cups is a tipping point. In six, all of tarot, in every suit, the six is a tipping point. And this is a tipping point between the emotional past and the emotional future. And as we can see on this card, we've got a black and white photograph of children playing. It's often, we look at the past with a rosy glow. As we can see, there is our rosy glow. We look at the past through rose-colored glasses. We look at the past through romantic eyes. So what's really important here is that we look at the past with reality. Because when we look at what's been showing up for us historically, and when we look at our childhood, or when we look at the patterns that have been put in place, coping strategies we've put in place, we can track back what's been going on. We can track back and we can start to change things. Again, knowing what's happened in the past as a way of pivoting into the future so we can do it differently next time is important. What's important is that we don't stay in the past. We don't keep reliving the past. That's really, really important. We have to let the past go, learn from it and let the past go. And if there are relationships in the past which have been circling round as a pattern, or we constantly want to go back, it's really important that we look at the past through realistic eyes and understand what was really happening. And then we can change things and we can pivot into a different emotional future. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there, and I will see you next week. I'm sorry I didn't show up last week. I was unfortunately ill. It was really a drag, which is why I'm on this medication now. And it's been a challenging ride, but nevertheless, back on track. And I will see you next week, and see you then. Bye-bye.